Welcome to the Cool Health Podcast, where we unlock groundbreaking research in health and wellness by bringing you the latest in health news and in-depth interviews with experts in their fields. We're here to make health cool again. Kurt Johnsen.
Hey,
How was everything, brother?
awesome, man.
Yeah.
Always as good as you make it.
Always good.
That's the deal. You know that.
Mm-hmm. What you been up to this morning? How's life going?
Today's nice. It's Friday. It's been chill, right? No kids today for me. Melissa's taking a little bit of time off work, so we actually just chilled out this morning. It was wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah, I did my morning routine, getting ready for this. You know what I mean? There's stuff that I do every day, right? I always tell people you wouldn't leave your house without brushing your teeth, right? And the thing is, you can get new teeth, but people leave the house without taking care of the rest of the body. And aside from the teeth, you're pretty much stuck with what you're born with. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I always go through just a ritual, just preparing myself for the day. Some of it's, who I want to be as far as that master, that kung fu master, and that person to be able to take care of people. And some of us just want to be the best version of me possible.
Right. Now it's time to thank the amazing sponsor of this podcast, Alitura Naturals, my go-to destination for high-quality skincare products made with the finest ingredients. At Alitura, they use the most pure, nutrient-rich ingredients at the core of every product, from things like wild-crafted sea buckthorn and organic aloe vera to grass-fed colostrum and organic cacao butter. Each of the ingredients is thoughtfully selected, and it has these incredible healing and nourishing properties. Why do I choose them over other skincare? I mean, just from their all-natural ingredients, guys. Alitura takes pride in using only ethically sourced, natural, and organic materials to create their powerful formulas, ensuring your skin gets the best possible care without harsh chemicals. It's scientifically proven and effective. Each ingredient in their products is backed by thorough scientific research to maximize effectiveness in supporting skin health and anti-aging. And finally, it was created by an expert, Andy Nilo, a former model and actor, founded Alitura after a life-changing accident, and this led him to develop his own transformative skincare solutions. So, guys, join the thousands of satisfied customers who have discovered the stunning results of Alitura's exceptional skincare line. Use my code JEK20, all caps JEK20. Get yourself a discount. This stuff is truly amazing, guys. Thank you. So what are there some non-negotiables in this morning routine?
The teeth is a non-negotiable.
Okay. Brushing teeth, I would hope.
That's a big one. Look, I'm pretty big into oil pulling these days, as far as balancing out the body and helping the gut biome. And then movement is key. And I've been teaching yoga now for 25 years and I've taught over 10,000 classes. And you might be surprised to know I don't do really any yoga in the morning. So I use more Tai Chi and movement based from the Kung Fu systems I've learned to get going. But that little breath work always to get the systems going. It's just, you want to warm up the system so that they can perform optimally. And that's really where I come back to, right? Life is short, so why not live it as best as you can?
Mm-hmm. So you're building this body armor in the morning. When did you start picking up on all of these amazing morning routines? When did you start getting into the nitty-gritty of health? When did you, at a certain point, say, hey, I want to start learning this stuff? And where'd you go after that?
It was really starts way back in the day with, there's only two things I've ever wanted to be in my life. And that was president of a television network back when there was only 4 networks, or James Bond. That's really it. So in the pursuit of the latter, it led me toward martial arts. James Bond would be able to defend himself and take care of the people around him.
Yeah.
And that led me into the world of Kung Fu. I lucked in and early on I found a really incredible teacher, and that opened the gateway to what the body can do. I mean, biohacking is very popular right now. Everyone's talking about it. Lots of people trying it. But when you look at the history of biohacking, it is, it's getting the body to be optimal, really, or to push the boundaries, perhaps get it to do things that it couldn't normally do. A lot of, that type of stuff seems miraculous, but when you break it down day by day and, kind of boring morning after morning, then you can achieve that. So it was really when I put my toe into the martial arts world. A lot of people think Kung Fu is about fighting, and that is a tool in which you can learn Kung Fu, but it's not really the goal. It's not the outcome that you're looking for. It is just a methodology of it. So through the Kung Fu, I learned acupuncture, herbology, Reiki, Tai Chi, Qigong, which is a form of breath work or many breath works. And that's what got me to understand that we can really shape our reality much more than we know. I created and ran a genetics company for 8 years, and a lot of people think they're stuck with their genes. I've got good, bad, good genes or bad genes. Kind of an interesting way to look at it in a factual one. There are no real bad genes. And I say that because genetics are based on evolution. Evolution really doesn't make mistakes. It is slow and methodical, and it is designed for us to honestly be optimal because it's designed on survival, right? So I started to understand that we can start to shape this, and we're not actually trapped by our genes. We can just work with it. Now, you might be thinking, well, I know some genotypes, and people might be thinking of some genotypes that are problematic.
Right.
For sure now, but the genes aren't really the problem. There's even the genes that seem problematic now, like the ones that make some people store more fat than others. I have those genes, by the way. That kept my genotype alive during scarcity. So it was the genes to have back in the day when these food sources were not abundant. Mm-hmm. So then it's just about creating that right environment for the genes. Here's the disconnect, and then we'll move on. The disconnect is our environment has changed incredibly quickly. Yeah. Genes evolution takes 10, 20,000 years to start shaping genetic change through basically nature and natural selection and whatnot. So that's where the disconnect is.
Have you ever seen that weird tape that people put on their mouths at night? Well, we got a sponsor for it, and that's hostage tape. We're here to discover the revolutionary way to improve your sleep and overall health. Mouth taping is a natural and effective method for promoting nasal breathing during sleep, which unlocks a world of incredible benefits, including enhanced sleep quality, reduced snoring, improved mental focus, and boosted overall health. Also, it's a safe and comfortable design, especially designed to be hypoallergenic, gentle on the skin, and easy to remove. It allows you to get in deep sleep states, and I'm telling you, when I put on my Oura Ring and check my scores, they're always so much better when I use hostage tape. For the discount code, guys, it's going to be John67447 for 10% off. Once again, John67447 for 10% off. If you really want to enhance your sleep, get amazing deep sleep, and feeling incredibly refreshed,
nature and natural selection and whatnot. So that's where the disconnect is. I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. And what did you notice by running all these diagnostics on different people, all sorts of backgrounds? What were some key aspects that were to help people change, let's say, not the bad genes, but maybe the troubling genes, maybe a low MTHFR gene, or the inability for lipolysis? Is that what you consider that?
For sure. It really, look, let's keep it simple for the non-biologists out there, but it's really, well, like I said, genes that make, I'm most likely to be diabetic or obese with my genetic, and I have a very common genotype, by the way. Yeah. Because again, the aforementioned, when food was not abundant, we survived because we could store fat like a rock star. Mm-hmm. So I can't change those genes, but I can change my environment. I can make it to where I'm not eating all the time, or start to adjust those things. With the detoxification, which is a big player in the gene you mentioned, you just have to do things to help supplement that, to help create it's epigenetics. It's about the environment that we're in, and our genes respond to that environment. Good news is we can shape the environment, or at least a good percentage of the environment we live in. Mm-hmm. We shape how we move and how we eat and how much light we take in. We can shape all those factors. And that way we work with our genes as opposed to against it. I got into genes because after 15 years of teaching American Power Yoga, which was very, hardcore, rigorous yoga practice, pool of sweat type thing, lots of people got in great shape. Some people got in okay shape, and lots of people, their body composition didn't change at all. They'd literally done thousands of classes with big gallons of sweat, years and years and years. The same people, I knew them. Yeah. And I wanted to know why. And that's actually what got me into genetics. And some people respond really well because of their adrenergic receptors to low intensity exercise, and that will efficiently affect their body composition. Yeah. Some people, it's not the right stimulus for the receptors they have, the genetic receptors they have, and they'll be better served by high intensity type stuff. Okay. So that's really where it comes into play.
Okay, cool. And you recently were working with another diagnostics company, and that's actually where you happened to do blood tests for me. Mm-hmm. And we noticed that my NAD was incredibly low.
Yeah.
Let's go through a brief summary of NAD. What is it? How can we help boost it? And
if you need to. If you need to. I mean, look, I do think in the supplement world, and I have owned a few supplement companies just to support other projects, there is more is not always better, right? There's really, nothing's free, right? If you take something, you take a stimulus, it's going to have a response in one way or another. So look, NAD is a big one. I know there's it's very popular right now. It's kind of go-to. And look, NAD levels certainly do tend to decline with age. But look, at your age, you were declined earlier. Right. So typically it's every decade they start to decline. NAD is a molecule largely responsible for about 400 to 500 different actions in the body. It's a coenzyme. And it's in every living thing. It's a very benign, substance. And people have been trying to boost it, elevate it back to the days that typically when you're in your optimal state, which is about 50 micromoles. And you can do that really through one way. When everyone's talking about NAD levels, they're typically talking about intracellular NAD levels. And intracellular is the NAD that your body can make itself. And it makes it in either the de novo pathway or the salvage pathway, which is kind of your body's recycling bin. Right. And the most efficient way to create it is to provide your body the tool or the pieces of materials, I should say, of what your body uses to create it itself. Those are called precursors. Right. So that's where, I was surprised, but I've been involved with testing over 1,000 people with NAD levels over the last couple of years as I assisted this company, the only company right now currently testing NAD levels, and learn that even people with young age can be deficient. Why is that important? Why should you care? Why should you get checked out? Is the number one effect that a low NAD level has is low energy levels. So, and that's crazy. A lot of people. The number two, oddly enough, is bad sleep or poor sleep. So it's interesting that this one substance in the body can be responsible for ATP or be fairly responsible for ATP as far as the production of energy, but that same chemical or substance can also assist with good sleep. But that's really where it's at. So in the top of the food chain in longevity right now, besides the basics, water, air, that type of stuff, good food, good sleep, it really is NAD these days.
Interesting. With everything you've taken in from your experience, your background, you are now teaching a health seminar coming up. And
after a long hiatus, man, I've been off the teaching circuit for several years now. So I'm excited, a little nervous about coming back, but
What has changed since what you initially learned into formulating this health seminar? Has there been some pivotal moments that are like, I need to teach like this now?
That's a good question. More and more, really every day, every time I take in new information, I'm humbled because, only a fool thinks they have nothing to learn. So I wake up every day working hard, trying not to be a fool, right? And just after you spend so much time learning things, it's easy to get, I guess, a little emotionally lazy going, okay, I've got this covered.
Yeah.
And in this world, if they call, practicing medicine, because it's evolving. So to answer your question, it's really just understanding the holistic approach, even more so than I have because there's so many different components. There's a lot of components I still don't know.
Right.
But what I wanted to do with this particular workshop, the instant upgrade, is to really to give kind of a shotgun approach of the, to me, the most important factors and most important categories of health, and more importantly, the things we can do about it. That's really where it's evolved to this point. The other thing is the addition of really the longevity play. It's never too early to start working on longevity. And longevity is, a lot of people, in fact, I'm surprised, and I'm curious you. A lot of my friends, when I asked, hey, do you want to live to be 100? They hesitated, and they were uncertain of it. Let me ask you, we turn the tables here. Do you want to live to 100? Do you want to live, do you want to increase your longevity?
It's funny, I was just reading about this. I would like to live to 100. If I know I can do everything I wanted to do with my family, be able to walk to my friend's house, be able to pick up a bag of groceries.
Right.
If my health span is not involved in those later stages of life, then I think you're truly just, you're missing out. And
well,
yeah,
you hit the nail on the head.
Right.
It's not about longevity. It's not about the years that you live. It's about the quality of that life.
Absolutely.
And health span is a phrase that's becoming more and more popular, and I like it because that's really what we're talking about, or at least what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about longevity, I'm not talking about how many years I can live on a bed or in a bed or with limited mobility or very limited energy or fighting this sickness or that sickness. It's about really being able to really live all the things you said and more, which I think a lot of people don't understand. We've been almost programmed to think, okay, well, you start to degrade, 40 might be your peak in the 40s, and by 50 things start to go downhill, and then it's just a slow, miserable tranche to death. And that's really, it's honestly not the way we're designed. The early man and women had no retirement homes. There's no caves set aside for the elderly, right? I mean, that's just not how it played. You had to stay frosty and stay fresh until you get out. So really, and this, I've learned this honestly, oddly enough, in traditional Tibetan Kung Fu, is the body's not designed to wear out to 100 or 120 or so. And that most of this, and this is another new element, most of the aging is due to age-related diseases. And again, back to NAD, one of the things that's so exciting about NAD research is it seems to show a reduction in age-related diseases. What we think is aging, arthritis and cardiovascular disease and diabetes and that type of stuff, is more symptoms of that their age-related diseases themselves. So if we can start to slow down that aging process, we can start to slow down the effects or the actions of these age-related diseases. Right. So it's really coming that top level. Instead of putting Band-Aids on this and that, it's really getting back to the top. Now that starts with, chemically, starts with NAD and some other very important chemicals, but it also starts with how much you move. It starts with how much you laugh. It starts with how much you play. Play is a huge one that people just don't do enough of. And they might think, oh, it's a waste of time or whatnot. But if you actually started to understand the chemistry behind the fact, or behind when you're happy, behind the moods that you have, behind laughter, behind being at play, you might understand that's as good as any pill or supplement you can take.
Yeah. Let's break down some of these pillars that we're talking about in your upcoming seminar. What are we be focusing on if I were to go to this?
Yeah, I try to put it in order. It's kind of overwhelming. In fact, when I was putting this together, I was thinking, okay, what do I want to focus on? I couldn't decide on one thing, so I just focused on all of them. And I was talking to a student, and he was like, that's pretty bold that you think you can put all this stuff together in, in a 3-hour workshop or whatnot. So at that point, I thought, maybe I've made a big mistake here. So we'll see. But to answer your question, really, one, I want to start with why and will. There is so much information out there about health and happiness, more every day than ever before, right? Just period. That's it. There's no excuse that information is out there. Everyone can Google it. You can do whatever you want with it. It's the action that is required. Most people take this in, and look, a lot of it's confusing. I want to be able to clear this up. But I want to more importantly, well, as importantly, bring it into their life. Everyone's like, I'm too busy to do this, that, and the other thing. So we really start with why and look at the priorities. And, everyone's like, I don't have time. Everyone has the exact same amount of time as everyone else. That's really it. So it really comes down to priorities. What are you going to do at this moment and that moment? So what I like to do is dive down to get the root cause of why people want to control their health span and perhaps extend their health span. And then how to overcome that dialogue of doubt when you're actually trying to do it. You're running late and you need to get that meditation in. How do you overcome the voice in your head that says, I don't have time to do that stuff. I'll do it later. And, I've had to use that a lot. I often say, look, I'm a good teacher just because I was a poor student, and I need to use these tools more than most. So I'm well practiced at wielding these type of tools. So starting with why is just explores the motivations behind that. Because when you are struggling with it, well, one, I'll teach you how to get rid of that voice that makes you make that decision every single day, and you put on that persona of who you want to be, and that alleviates that. But then also to help fit it into your day. I was busy today this morning trying to get ready for the show, and I hung out with my wife because it's a little bit of a holiday this morning, and so I didn't have a lot of time to do the oil pulling that I do, right? So instead, I do it while I'm in the shower. There you go. No problem.
It takes so long.
Well, it did, but it worked out perfect. It took no extra time to do that because I fit it in.
How long do you want to
5 to 20 minutes, depending on the day. So
I try to do yoga while doing it.
That's a little tricky.
Tell her dog.
Yeah, that's a little tricky. Yeah, and that's no point. There's some bad stuff in there. So, but that's where I start with. Start with why. Develop that will, because you'll need it. I'll tell you this, and I'll go to the end here.
Yeah. Almost
every time I've ever worked with people, I've certified and trained over 500 yoga instructors over the years, and I've helped. I've coached thousands or tens of thousands through the TV shows and whatnot. I can tell you, no matter how great your resolve is, life will challenge it. Once you say, "Hey, I'm going to do this," life will typically get in the way of one way or another. And so it is important for everyone to have tools to overcome whatever obstacle comes their way. And honestly, you can use it as well. The Stoic philosophy really embraces that. That awareness that obstacles and adversity will come, and that we can certainly use it. I mean, look, in yoga is a great example. People go to yoga and they're put in stressful situations. And you're like, wait, how? It's very zen, and it's peaceful light, and there's candles, and there's really nice music. Well, but then you get in these very often uncomfortable situations, right? That your thighs burning from the lunge, or you're trying to open up here, and you're feeling all this. That's stress. What you're doing is conditioning yourself to deal with stress. You're adapting at that time through hormesis. Again, and it's funny how Stoicism is so tied into yogic philosophy. Coming from different sides of the world, but when you really look at it, it's all the same thing.
Right. Okay. So how many days is it?
It is just one day. Man.
Just one day.
3 to 3.5 hours. So we start with why, we move on to body works. Right. And that's really, I'm trying to just, take the mystery out of working with the body. And some of it comes from people just doing the wrong, the wrong stimulus for their receptors. And it comes from my understanding back in the yoga days when I wanted to know why some people didn't respond to yoga, why other people did. It is their genetics. And I'll give away tricks that in fact, I'll give this takeaway right here. So you don't have to actually get tested genetically to know what adrenergic receptors that are largely responsible for your body composition are. I can tell you this.
What are those?
Adrenergic receptors are the receptors in your body that bind to catecholamines. Catecholamines are the things that are produced by exercise. People have different variations or combinations of receptors in their body. So I can tell you this. If you're doing a bunch of and here's the deal. The body is agnostic. Your receptors don't know if you're in a yoga class or a Pilates class, or if you're running, or if you're in a fight, or if you're playing with your kids, or if you're cycling or weightlifting, or any of that stuff. The body doesn't know, and it doesn't care. It responds to the stimulus. But here's the takeaway. when you think about training, divide it into two camps. It is high intensity or low intensity. For you, for your heart at that day. Look, what is low intensity or high intensity for you one day, a year later might not be anymore as you acclimate. So this was a moving target. This is something only you can tell. But divvy it up, and and low intensity is typically where you're doing the activity, but you can still have a conversation. High intensity is where you're doing the activity and can't have a conversation. That's really the easy way to buy heart monitoring and that stuff. If you're doing, you say you do a week of low intensity, right? Go to yoga every day or long walks or whatever. If you are tired and if you have cravings, most likely that's not the right stimulus, because that's not the appropriate response, right? You should feel good if you're doing the right thing. You shouldn't have cravings if you're doing the right thing. That's true. It's conversely, if you're doing HIIT workouts for 3 or 4 days that week and you're tired and have cravings, then you probably need low intensity. After testing 11,000 people, I can tell you the majority need a little bit of a combo. Majority, actually 46% of men and 43% of women need about 70-30 low and high. But 20% of men and 19% of women need mostly high, almost all high. 8 and 6% respectively need mostly low. So if everyone out there will just take a couple weeks and experiment, you'll know what feels right. And that's really getting back to the root of it. It goes, we're taking the scientific thing and what kind of receptors do I have? And I'm going all the way back to go with what feels right. Yeah. Because it works. Mm-hmm. You'll know.
Okay, so low intensity, would that be taking a stroll through the park? And then high intensity doing HIIT class or weight training class? Yeah,
you have to boost up, that stroll needs to be a decent walk. I mean, you want to elevate that heart rate. And look, I don't want to get into what percentage or whatnot. Again, you'll know when you're working, but you can still have a conversation. You'll know when you're working and you can't. You also know when you're not working. So let's not kid ourselves. Last thing on that is find something that you like. People, I dare I say, I almost never exercise. And people are like, what, but I don't.
Already here first.
Yeah. But the
what do you mean? You look so good.
I feel good. I do a lot of stuff.
Right.
But, I train in Kung Fu. That's not exercise for me. I'm doing that because I want to serve others, right? I want to explore what I can do. But mainly I want to be able to protect the people around me, the people I care about. I think it's, we live in a world where, I do believe there's good and there's bad. And we need strong good to overcome and keep in check the people who might not be as good. Mm-hmm. So I train, when I go ride the lake or whatnot, I'm doing that as a meditation, or I'm doing it to figure out a business problem. I'm never doing it just to exercise.
Right.
So I really, now with the exception of strength training, I really don't like throwing on weights, and that I do, but even that, I have my weights in my office, and I break down my weight sets into, 3-minute sets that I do 3 to 5 times during my office day. Right. Just so I can knock it off the list. I need it at my age. I need to maintain the bone density. It helps very much with the testosterone production at 58. I need to watch those chemicals in my body. So this is how I make that work. So, but my point is, if you're exercising just to exercise, there is a very good chance you'll stop doing that.
Absolutely. Find
something you enjoy. There are so many ways to move. I mean, look, sex. It's a great movement. Okay. I mean, if that's your thing, you can certainly, move the body appropriately with that activity. So again, if you don't like, then that's why people are like, I don't like exercise. I'm like, do you like sex? They're like, well, yeah. I'm like, all right. There's your workout.
High intensity cardio.
Oh, you young high intensity. See, I'm steady aerobic, man.
Sorry, everything's meditation, Kurt. Okay. My question for you is, if we're going to the seminar, someone is a first timer. Yeah. You just went through why, how, the body.
Yeah.
How do we break down the complications of nutrition?
Yeah.
How do we start?
And that's really it. The very next topic, and I'm looking at my notes, the cheat sheet, the art of eating. Diets have been just all over the place, and everyone's. So I'll give you the shortest diet book I've ever written. Okay.
Perfect.
All energy comes from one place. You know where that is?
No.
The sun. Every bit of energy on this planet comes from the sun, all of it, 100%. We can't get energy directly from the sun. We can, some would argue that vitamin D processing provides the energy, whatever, the joy. So I'll give you that. The vast majority we can't get directly. We can either get it from the things that get it directly, which are plants, or we can get it from the things that eat the things that get it directly, which are animals. So in the whole dietary world, you just want to be able to see the source of energy in the food that you're eating. If you look at an apple, easy. You look at a cow, easy. You look at a Twinkie, not so easy. And in fact, you look at the source of the sun in processed foods. They don't come from the field, they come from a factory. The materials, then there's no sun in that factory. The materials that go to the factory come from other factories. Again, no source of sunlight. So you're going so far removed from the actual source of energy that there's not much energy in there. So that's really how I kind of sort it out. And then you have to kind of dial in. Yeah, people need different macronutrient footprints. I can tell that from some of the genetics, how much fat they absorb and that type of stuff. But really, you don't have to get in the weeds about that, I don't believe. I believe you really just have to look to get foods that are as close to the source, the only source of energy on this planet. If you stick close to it, you're going to be all right. And then dialing in from there is up to you. During the workshop, I'll also kind of cover, things that will help reduce cravings and how to get, off the addiction of sugars, off the addictions of salt. I'm not saying I don't use salt or occasionally have sugar, but it's really the not being addicted to it, not having to survive from it, starting to use it. So, and then I'll tackle, if time allows, some of the sea of supplements out there. I mean, you can literally spend $1,000 a month taking supplements, and I do take a good chunk of supplements, particularly as I age, for the anti-aging play. But we'll cover some of the basics there, and then kind of moving on outward, more inward. I'll talk about the breath, and Qigong and breath work is becoming very popular now. It's easier than people think. You can really, and I can't stress this enough, regulate mood and energy levels with just 60 seconds, 2 minutes of breath work. So, I mean, there's really no excuse not to take the time to do it. When I'm talking about excuses and time, it leads me to the next part of the workshop is meditation. I cannot emphasize how powerful it is. And look, I was not a believer of just how extreme it is until fairly recently. I've been a long-time meditation practitioner. But I'll tell you that the fun thing is the latest data, hardcore science does, I guess, more than suggest. It shows that even 3 to 5 minutes a day can move the marker a great deal, sometimes more than medication. And then, what to meditate on, how to meditate is also a big one. There's a lot of different practices out there, from breathwork being meditation to TM, TM, or other styles of meditation. Traditionally, meditation is actually preparation for death. And that's a whole different conversation.
I thought you were going to say yoga was preparation for meditation.
No,
meditation is preparation for death.
At least in the Buddhist sense of the world, yeah, where you want to be able to keep your stuff together when you get rid of your hard drive and your input, where you lose the body itself. Okay. But there's a lot of different ways to fit it once again in your day, and also you can really start to adjust your own, you can fine tune your own awareness with meditation as well. A lot of people are trapped in their head, and I'll tell you, those people who are very heady, I would suggest that doing internal meditations could be problematic because you're heading yourself in the same direction. Look, life is balance. Too much of anything becomes its opposite. This is a theory of yin yang, right? It's a whole kung fu thing as well. So if you're too much in your head, you might look for external stimulus for your meditation. And if you can't get in touch with yourself, reverse that. So meditation would be a tool, not just something that's like, oh, I hope this improves me. No. Let's figure out what type of meditation you need that day and utilize it. These are tools, not answer-alls, but they're tools themselves.
So if it's been a hard day of work and I don't really meditate and my mind's running, you wouldn't suggest just sitting on a pillow and try to close your eyes and do that thing.
No, because your mind will just keep racing in your head. You'll be sitting there working yourself up, most likely.
Right.
There are things, now I would probably turn to a breathwork meditation in that particular scenario. But even a simple one would be a body awareness or a body scan type meditation. That gets you out of your head right away. Again, just seeing what you need and understanding that these things are tools, and it's not one size fits all. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing I learned with owning a genetics company for as long as I did, is one size doesn't fit all. And there's different camps, and then there's outliers on top of that. So, back to the Stoics, know thyself is the Stoics challenge. Mm-hmm. The only way to know thyself is to really be ever present, and then truly look at yourself and be cool with it. And then start to make adaptations that way.
Awesome. This is very intensive and high level with this whole seminar.
Well, but I want to make it accessible. So you don't need to be a master to get this.
That's good.
And I'll tell you, each one of these topics I could do 3.5 hours on.
Yeah.
But so this will be really dedicated to just giving takeaways. This is like, hey, this is what you need. If you want to know in depth, they can come back and take the full workshop. But a lot of people don't have time for this, and I get that. Some people don't care. They just want to give me what works, and I got to move on with my day. I'm doing other things with my life, and I'm all in on that. I'm cool with being the person to be able to saute this down for them.
Yeah.
So
so the nutrition, you said everything's coming from the sun. Do you believe in the whole I can eat whatever I want as long as I fit my calories?
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay.
Yeah, no. A calorie is not a calorie. That's in. I was helping a client with battling ALS. It's a very terrible disease, and he has a nutritionist, a dietitian, and the dietitian said, it doesn't matter where the calories come from, and
meet requirements.
Yeah, and I said, have you ever watched the movie Super Size Me? I mean, you watch that and a calorie is not just a calorie. It is a unit of measurement of energy. By definition, that's what a calorie is. But nothing's free. What you put in the body has a response. So if you're putting in maltodextrin, which is another fancy word for sugar, the body's going to respond to that. It sets off a whole chemical reaction in the body itself. So, and it has a bunch of side effects as well. And it doesn't have a bunch of things in it as well, as far as nutrients themselves. Mm-hmm. So, what you eat really does matter. I'm not here to say you need to be Spartan and no one should ever have to starve. That's not how the body's designed to. We, as cavemen, we didn't walk around starving all the time. In fact, those periods where we weren't eating, those fasting periods, that's where our body uses autophagy to start to clear up nasty things like cancer, another age-related disease. Well, if you can start taking care of those things as your body's designed to do, I mean, all of us have cancerous cells in it. It's about the balance. Right? Our body can keep up with it, so we're good to go. So it always comes down to that. So my point is you can enjoy food. I'm a bit of a foodie. I love cooking. I like decadent foods with moderation. So just understanding what you're doing helps a lot.
And would it be smart for some people maybe to get an allergy test or some type of diagnostic microbiome test to assess what foods might work better? Where do you think? Yes.
Look, I love that. Right? So I'm an old school kung fu yogi guy who loves that. I like that old and new and east and west. If you're not spending time really analyzing how you feel after you eat this, that, and the other things like I do, then for sure there's some great tests out there. The gut biome in particular that's the new frontier. It really is. We have a hard time measuring it. We have a hard time understanding what's happening. It's fairly unknown. There's a lot of great companies out there working with it, and they're practicing as well. But it is a huge tool. It certainly helped me. I did the biome and a couple other gut analysis, and it adjusted accordingly. So that's certainly a great place. But again, don't offload your health to any one entity. Not your doctor, not me, not anyone. Because no one's going to care about your health as much as you do. No one's going to be impacted by your health as much as you are. So whether you're into it or not, that's the reality of the situation. So you can either start to bring this awareness in and start to pay attention to it, or I suggest working with a few people who ideally disagree so you can take away the different perspectives. Look, one of the things that I think gives me a little bit of value, why some people might want to listen to what I say, is just my experiences and my perspective. Since I do come from a kung fu master or a yoga master or a nutritionist or a geneticist or a longevity biomarker expert, or a meditator or a Tai Chi master or a Qigong master, or one of these different views, different perspectives, I can kind of put it all together. But that's where I think everyone should look at their health, not just with one scope, from many different sides.
Okay. What else is going on in the seminar?
Next, I think, would be sleep. And look, the struggle is real. I mean, we were talking about this before the show. I've struggled with sleep for large portions of my life. There's a lot of things you can do to hack your sleep. And some of the most popular ones are some of the most problematic. And I know you mentioned, I hope you don't mind me mentioning this, melatonin, right? Melatonin is a go-to.
What happened to me today? Okay, well, let's talk about that. I took 5 milligrams of melatonin, Kurt.
Why?
And because I heard it's great for you. I hear it's the miracle molecule full of antioxidant powers and helps beat cancer and all that. And I also heard some doctors are using almost a gram of melatonin. For reference, I took 5 milligrams. Some people are using 300 to 1,000 to help patients, almost sometimes some severe case patients with things like cancer and stuff. But for me, I took it at 10 p.m. and then I woke up at 10 a.m. Why? What happened, Kurt?
How was the quality of your sleep? Did you measure?
I don't know. I didn't measure anything yesterday, but I definitely woke up stressed.
Yeah,
because I missed a meeting.
Right, which is not ideal. Look, and melatonin is a great molecule, and that's why our bodies produce it, right? Because it is essential for sleep. It's sometimes in the supplement realm, I've learned over the decades that really giving your body the thing it needs to do its thing is much better than giving the body the thing it's trying to do. Testosterone is the greatest example. Testosterone, a few decades ago, was all the rage in supplementation, right? And still a lot of people do it, and there's a lot of validity to testosterone or hormone replacement therapy. But unless you do it carefully and with cycling and whatnot, it can disrupt the body's production. The same thing with melatonin. The same thing with a lot of things, honestly. With that NAD, if you take NAD via sub-Q or IV or orally, it has a very different effect than if you take the precursors to NAD, where your body will make it. So melatonin falls under that same category. Now, as far as cancer treatments and that high dosage, I'm not familiar, so I can't speak to that. I want to look at the data. But again, even if that is the case, I would hope that those experts who are providing those types of treatments also counteract that. Much like if you take antibiotics, and it's life-saving in many cases, you do want to come back and get the gut biome back to where it was, right? So that's it. You want to bring the body back into balance. And that really goes way back to my Kung Fu days. It is about that balance itself. So again, sometimes you have to do acute things, you have to treat things and deal with the problem at hand, but eventually you have to get the body back into balance.
Okay. Let's say I'm sleeping like shit.
Yeah.
How do we start with someone that comes into the seminar, says, "Oh, Kurt, I'm sleeping horrible. I work till 10 p.m. I'm on my computer. My kids stress me out," and then I immediately try to go to bed.
Yeah.
What are you going to say to this person?
Yeah, it will never work.
Okay.
It will never work. Yeah, we'll go back to the priorities, right? With the very initial part of the workshop with why. And maybe you say this scenario, why might be so I can be a great dad, right? So I raise, good kids. Well, if you don't get sleep, there's not a chance you'll be a great dad. I mean, or at least not optimal. There's no way. I mean, and people are like, I don't need that much sleep.
I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Yeah, well, then you'll be dead a lot sooner, right? I mean, the simple fact is, but the data suggests that besides outliers, literally 1 in a million, people need 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And then look, it varies from the low 7s to the high 8s, but most everyone is in that category. people can, and people are at home going, oh, well, I get less than that. I'm doing great. Well, I would argue that you could do a lot better. And you just don't know it until you get that optimal sleep. So first, it's making it a priority. That's what half the people out there listening who struggle with sleep probably just have never made it a priority. Protect your sleep is kind of a phrase that's been coming up lately that I really like, because you have to let the body know. So little hacks. If you see the blue light in the morning, that's when the sun is rising. And if you get forward movement, which is why rats or hamsters run on wheels, because they get that forward movement, it sends a chemical in the brain. Morning light will help you sleep better at night. Watching the sunset will trigger your body. It's just starting to work with the body's processes. Work with your body's melatonin production. Well, staying in front of your computer without blue blockers, right, is going to get your body to stop melatonin production. Not getting light in the morning will hinder it. So it's really some very easy things to do. Now, there's a sea of supplements out there that will help, that will serve as precursors, like GABA, L-theanine. There's a lot out there. Some will work for you, some won't. That's where experimentation comes in. But light would be a big one. Meditation would be a big one. But it all starts with making it a priority.
Okay, let's make a little blueprint for the sleep, because I know kids in college listening to this, adults are listening to this. It starts with the morning, you're saying.
Indeed, it does.
Okay, so we wake up, we're going to go outside.
Circadian rhythm is real, right? I mean,
what's circadian rhythm?
The body's internal clock. I mean, there's been experiments where people have lived in months in caves,
right,
and not gotten any light, and just to see. And sure enough, even with no external stimulus, the body still has that internal clock. The body's, again, the millions of years of evolution, or the hundreds of thousands of us, our evolution really is just brilliant. And it has all these internal mechanisms. Again, it's in our genes, but our environment has changed so much. I mean, now even just light at night is only, what, 100 years, couple hundred years, not firelight, but external other stimulus like
this big light,
like electric lights, still new. Evolutionarily speaking, we have not genetically acclimated to electricity yet. Period. It's still brand new for our species. Our species is going, our genes are going, wait, what?
Yeah.
The sun should be down by now. Why am I getting the stimulus?
Right.
So it's confusing our system. So we just have to understand that we have that system and then work with it.
Yeah.
Not good or bad, man. It just is. And as long as we embrace it, know thyself, and work with it.
Perfect. So we're getting the sun, we're getting our forward ambulation.
Yeah, there you
forward
go.
walk.
Yeah. I was going to throw that word out there. I thought, man, I'm going to cheer this one up. I'll let you say it.
We get that going, and throughout the day, someone's at work. What are some sleep hacks? Because I know sunlight in the afternoon is so phenomenal.
Yeah.
But sorry about that.
Well, it's really, I'm not saying hi to Dad. That's
the best podcast ever. What can we do? We're under the fluorescent lights all day at the office. What are some ways people can keep that circadian rhythm just intact?
Yeah, it's the morning setup. If you can be outside, even for a minimum, nothing takes as long as everyone thinks. I don't have that kind of time. 3 minutes, 5 minutes out in the sun, a little quick walk around the block.
And that's it.
Yeah, well, no, first in the morning, set it up.
Okay.
And then really not in the afternoon. Well, look, anytime light during the day is helpful. So if you're in the office and whatnot, which is, again, genetically not designed, right? We're not designed to sit still or be inside for that long. But getting outside when you can, getting movement when you can. And then more importantly, in the evenings is trying to catch that setting sun. And look, if you're working late and whatever, you can take your laptop outside for a little bit, or just take a well-deserved break, or eat as the sun's coming down, so you can get that signal to your brain, hey, it's starting time to create melatonin so you can get some sleep. And then after the sun is set, to reduce that blue light. And that's, some of the glasses are effective.
Right.
If you blast it, as we do here for production, nothing's really going to overcome that. That's going to be a problem for sure. And you might have to start supplementing and working for other angles. But there's ways to at least optimize what you can.
Okay.
Limiting the caffeine sources, stopping caloric intake a few hours before bed is a big one. When you sleep, you don't want to be digesting. I mean, sleep is so important, and your body does a lot of things. Clearing cancer cells is a big one. I always try to play the card that will get people to act, right? I want that behavioral change.
Four horsemen.
Yeah, well, so we're not. People are like, oh, I don't know if I'll do that. If they have kids, I'll play the kid card. You want to see your daughter dance at her wedding or whatever. I'll use every trick in the book to try to motivate people to do the right thing for them. But anyway, so that's really it. Is just starting to protect it, starting to understand your own body's processes. And once you embrace it, that is how your body works. It's much easier to hack it. It's not really complex. You're like, oh, my body wants light here to know it's morning. Okay. And it wakes up. It actually makes you more productive that day.
Right.
The other big thing would be the understanding that when you do these things, when you take the 5 minutes to meditate or the 5 minutes outside or the walk in the morning, it will make you more productive. Unless you're paid by the hour, you're either paid by the hour or you're paid to produce.
Right.
And a big chunk of people are paid to produce.
So wait, you're telling me if I start the day and immediately get to work and just go, or instead I start the day and put on my body armor and get it going, take care of myself, I'll be more productive that way.
Yeah.
Really?
And arguably you could do more in less time, more efficient. It's about efficiency, right? Particularly with work. And again, if you're not hourly, it's about production. So efficiency is everything. And it took me a long time. Look, when I was struggling with one of my companies and going through a really tough time with it, I had a hard time. I was at my office and it was a fairly dark period. As a lifelong entrepreneur, there's ups and downs. You've got to learn to ride that. Yeah. So during that really struggling time, it took me a while to understand that if I got away from my computer and went for a bike ride, middle of the day, to figure out an issue, it was more productive than when I was sitting at the computer. In fact, I finally figured out that my best work is typically when I'm interacting with people or interacting through media. My second most productive time of any of the things I do is on my bike. Yeah. It really is. And I'm not talking hardcore productive work time. That's where I get a lot of it done. I know everyone might not be able to do that, but I want to just illustrate that it can be counterintuitive at times. Mm-hmm. So just forcing the grind can often be very unproductive. So we need to, if something's not working, do something else, right? The old adage, crazy's doing the same thing, expecting different results. There's a lot of crazy people out there. In fact, some people will just double down. Well, I can't get through this, so I'm going to put in twice the time.
Right.
That doesn't always work.
Oh, okay. This is breaking the notion of everything people have learned.
I've always liked to be a contrarian, so that's it. It's one of my superpowers. So, and real quick, just I know we're not long on time, but speaking of that time, then next in the seminar we talk about detoxification. Okay. A lot of people are detoxing, and back in my day it was all the master cleanse with lemon and honey and cayenne pepper and stuff. And detoxing really can evolve your body, cleansing it. There's little Tibetan kung fu movements that will create vibrations in the body by body pounding, which will start to work the lymphatic system. There's dietary things that you can do to start the fasting process. But also really fasting. One of my favorite fasts is a news fast. Particularly in this day and age. Yeah, that's for sure. News fast is where you just don't take any news for a week or a day or a month or whatever you want to do it. Most of the news that we get from all the different sources of media that we get, most of it is fairly irrelevant. Now, look, if you're an investment banker, you got to stay up with the financial crisis or whatnot. I get that. So I'm not talking about that. But a lot of people know more about their local news or international news than they do about their own family's news, like what friends their kids are hanging out with at that time or how they're getting along or whatnot. Yeah. So in a news fast, I typically will have it as a week, and I'll actively not take in any news. And look, I'm a bit of a political junkie, so that's fairly hard for me. But it just resets the table. I don't need to know what's going on across the globe at any given day. And back to genetics, I'm not genetically designed to have that information at all. Right. So clearing that out or detoxing some of the people in your life. one of my favorite things as I was certifying all the yoga teachers is we would go through a week where they would basically kind of rate the interaction, how they were after they interacted with people in their life. Some people they would discover give them energy. Some people kind of a neutral impact. And some people they would discover, often very close people, would leave them feeling diminished after interacting with them. So perhaps those people are looked at as toxins, and perhaps you limit your access to them or eliminate altogether. And that's happened as well. So detoxing can be a lot more fun, a lot more interesting, and a lot more impactful than people think.
So it's not just food.
Not at all.
Well, it's not just sitting in salt.
No, which is a great one.
That's great.
But it's a lot more than that. And you just have to think about it. Lots of people are very careful about what they put in their body. They'll put anything into their brain. They'll watch things, listen to things all day long. They'll let anyone be around them. Those are toxins too. Those are influences as well. Mm-hmm. And look, you can work with them. You can, through hormesis, you can be around a very toxic person, and maybe you acquire the skills not to be affected by that toxic person. Maybe that's something you want to do. But again, you want to do it with awareness. You want to understand that you have control over that. And then utilize it as just one of the other tools that we have.
It's amazing. I just lost my train of thought. What was I going to say? We're talking about detoxing.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. Oh, it's your fault this time.
Yeah.
We have let's do 3 detoxes.
Okay.
What are the 3 detoxes that, someone's feeling a little rut, they're feeling a little cruddy? What can they do? Starting with the news detox, what are some 2 other good ones that you would say?
I would say really, look, food is impactful. If you think about it, we're on this crazy planet, right? And the way we most interact with this planet, the
way we most interact
on
this planet? With each other.
Breath. We actually literally take the air in and use it all. Yeah. The second way is food. We literally take parts of this planet, right, and internalize it. We take it in. So food is very, very impactful on that. So, look, probably the most powerful detox someone could do is really start to, for a week, eliminate either just processed sugars or eliminate processed foods and get back to, as I was alluding to earlier, getting back to the source of our energy, which are plants and animals. That's it. And that would be probably the most powerful detox, or one of them that people would do.
Just go back to the source.
Yep.
Back to the source.
Yep. Just eat plants and animals for a week. You'll be amazed what happens. And again, there's going to be some cravings and stuff, and there's little hacks. Eating protein as the last thing you eat can help with cravings if you're trying this.
That's the last thing.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, for sure. If you're trying to eliminate cravings, right? Say you're having a meal and, if you end on a sweet, often you'll want more sweets. If you end on salty carbs, you'll never, there's an old commercial about chips and you can't eat just one.
No, you can't.
Well, you can't, because your body is designed to crave that. So if you're eating potato chips, you want to stop, then, eat a little protein and your body will feel more satiated and it will start to alleviate some of those cravings.
So it's not the first thing you eat, the protein.
No.
Wouldn't that help fill you?
Well, yeah, and that could alone. I'm just saying for people who are suffering cravings, particularly if you're getting off sugar, which is, I was going to say it's a fairly addictive substance. In some studies, it shows it's more addictive than cocaine. So it's a very addictive substance. Or a lot of people with the salty carbs are very, very addictive as well. Just you can really help take away that craving by satiating with protein, and sometimes protein and healthy fat combo will really start to squash it as well. So that would be it, really. And then the third one, I would say really look at the people, either the people or the input. And let's just keep it general. Let's say the input, the toxic input, whether it's the news or the people or the music or whatever is not serving you. Right. And just try it for a week. Even if it's maybe that one person who gossips every time that you talk to them, and you end up feeling just not like the person you want to be. Well, take a break for a week and see how life is with that. You might pick it up, you might interact with them in a different way, or you might limit it, or you might eliminate it.
It's one of the most helpful things I've ever done. Eliminating people that are envious and weren't being fully transparent. that really helps me understand who is good for me.
Yeah. And look, I don't, judge not ye be judged, right? I don't want everyone to think, oh, this person's good, this person's bad. It's really, is this relationship serving me at this moment in my life? And challenging relationships can serve you, by the way. I mean, there's not necessarily going to be just it's all easy relationships in my life. Some of the more challenging relationships I've had have served me the most because they'll help define you. So, challenges serve. Stresses are good. Again, back to the yoga analogy. I mean, yoga is all about stress, and yet it promotes relaxation and calmness. So it's that hormesis. You take that stress, and it's how there's distress and there's less eustress. Eustress translates good stress, and that's where most of these things, all stress can be eustress if we utilize it properly.
I would like to include fourth.
What's that?
I would like to propose not only the food, not only the people, not only the news, but the products that you are putting in your body and on your face. All the so-called estrogenics, the ingredients, the ingredient labels that you see, and you can't even pronounce those words. I would like you to eliminate those. Anything from fen to bens to sulfate this, that, alkaloid this, PFAs this. It's all really taking a toll on hormones, giving men, gynecomastia, all these estrogenic issues.
For sure. Imbalances.
So I would say that cosmetic products as well. Check those. I like to say, can't eat it, don't put it on your skin.
Good point. Yeah, for sure, because it ends up in you anyway. You absorb this type of stuff. And that's really what we're talking about. We absorb energies from people. We absorb from our surroundings. I don't do, you can probably tell, I don't do any skincare. I probably should at some point in time, but I really don't.
I just met with the CEO of Alitura, that amazing skin company. I'll get you one.
Okay, cool, thanks.
You can eat this product. It's so good.
Oh, awesome. Thumbs up, fine. As long as it doesn't break my fast. But
it's got olive oil, it probably would.
Oh, no, yeah, that's awesome. But anyway, so and to round out the offering so we don't get cut too short, after detoxification, then really comes, I wanted to offer some longevity plays. Again, it's never too early to start. And there's just a lot of hacks, like, the fasting and whatnot, or NAD or taking the precursors to NAD, or increasing your lung capacity. So, and a lot of that will tie back into breath work and some other things, but it really does add to just a longer health span. And most of these things, aside from some of the supplements, are all no-cost items and all just really practices that you can go through. And then lastly, to round out part 9, is that principle of Kaizen.
Oh, yes.
Which is, it's attributed to be a Japanese principle, but it's a Japanese principle that was actually referring to American principle during World War II, where we started to adapt factories in which to produce more efficiently and to take in and to improve through, to make great improvements through small improvements. And that's really starting just to point the direction of change. I also will throw in a couple other ones, which is ABT and ABL, which is always be training, always be learning. And that's what I mean by that is, well, like when I'm in line and at a grocery store or whatnot, if I'm in a line, I'm training and I'm either working on breath work or meditation or awareness. I mean, I use my time wisely. When I'm driving, I'll typically be, listening to content, which I'm learning, always be learning. So the always be learning, always be training. If you look, even in the busiest of lives, I've worked with, individuals as well sometimes. I'll find unused portions of their time where they're in, look, it's okay to have downtime too. And I would say it's critical.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Are you sure?
And it's critical to have playtime.
Okay.
But there's a lot of time that people spend, well, honestly, looking at their phone and really not doing anything. In fact, doing things that are often counterproductive. The evidence behind social media is pretty strong. Mm-hmm. It can have a very negative effect. I'm not saying all social media is negative, but to use it without awareness can be very problematic. And to balance some of that time and to question whether you need to know all the stats for one basketball team or some, or whatever they're diving into, or one reality show versus another. maybe taking a portion of that time and utilizing it to always be training or always be learning, that's where you can fit all this in. And and again, that's really why I do this. All this information is out there. I'm not coming in with really, exclusive information for the most part. Some of it, is rare, like the NAD results, since we were the only people testing NAD on the planet at the time. But to have that, that perspective. But my point is, most of the information is out there. What I specialize in, or at least am passionate about, is helping just regular people utilize it in their everyday life, not where they have to spend, hours a day trying to do this, that, or the other thing. Just look at their day and then take the 9 elements that we discussed here today and just put it in their life on a regular basis. And by that, making those little kaizen, those small changes, can add decades to their health span. Literally decades. And it's not just me being optimistic about it. There's data behind almost all of it these days. I mean, that's one of the, and I'll end with this, one of the biggest takeaways, on the breath work. I mean, a huge study, the Framingham study, states that the larger your lungs, the longer you live. It doesn't matter why your lungs are big or small, but that's, and it was over 20 years and thousands of people. There's a lot of data behind this. And this old school is no cost, and it takes a couple minutes a day. With that kind of entry point, I mean, who can say no?
This is controversial. I don't care. All diseases start in a hypoxic state. How do you feel about this?
I haven't seen enough data to say.
That's going to take 3 hours. All right, one last question.
Yeah.
For you, and then we'll get all your information. What is one thing you could tell your 21-year-old self about life as it is now?
That everything has consequences. That nothing is free.
Wow.
Because back then I did not know that. And now I'm living with some of those consequences. And look, it's not, for me or whatever, but I didn't appreciate really how holistic everything is, how the decision I made back then I'll be stuck with now. So, look, I'm not here to say take everything super seriously. In fact, hopefully people are getting that that you shouldn't. That's problematic. But some you should. The reality that we're on this planet for a very short period of time. I mean, it's really a blink of the eye when you look at it, or when you compare it to geology or whatnot. Do some good, have some fun, and don't take anything too seriously, because we're only here for a blink of an eye. So,
okay, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
that's really wonderful.
Hey, man, I appreciate it.
Where can people? How do we get to the summer? I would love to come.
Awesome.
Where's all the information?
Yeah,
let's see what's up.
Yeah, I'm doing it at it's actually my sister's studio. It's a beautiful yoga studio and art studio. There's just tremendous artists here. So it's kind of cool if you go there to do yoga. It's called Yoga Art Music in Lake Highlands, Dallas, Texas. It's a beautiful studio, a bunch of great teachers and stuff like that. I'll be doing it there. It's April 29th, Saturday. It starts at about 12:30 and we'll go to probably 4, depending on how many questions we have. So you can go to their website for information. I'll probably post it on mine. I have a website, the it's Happy Healthy Human Project, or HHHproject.com. HHHproject.com. And of course, you can find me on social media, Instagram and Facebook at Kurt Johnsen. The tricky thing is the spelling, Johnsен, as opposed to Owen.
We'll put all the links down below.
Awesome.
Thank you, Kurt Johnsen.
Hey, man, I appreciate
wonderful. It. Yes.
It's been fun.
It's been wonderful. Boom.
Nice.
Nice.
How's that?
Dude, miraculous.